Headlines coming out saying that they're not worried about Bitcoin as a threat to financial stability. It doesn't sound like they're going to regulate. Everything is rallying.
Yeah, I think the headlines were less draconian than maybe people were worried about, but that's really been the case every time there's been a regulatory event. But in general, yeah, I think the reality is I think Bitcoin is starting to sit clearer away from the line. So I think increasingly, I think investors are comfortable that Bitcoin is likely to be viewed as a commodity. So whether regulations change around security tokens and registration, Bitcoin sort of sits in its own sphere.
Let's get to your most recent note. And in that note, you say that you think the altcoin bear market is over. But you're not saying to invest in altcoins right now.
That's right. So we have a preferred indicator to measure altcoin sort of cycles, which is the percent that have tripled over 90 days. And on January 13th, that hit 78%, which is normally a top. So really in January, we thought you needed to rotate back into the large caps because that's what happens. And this indicator's been falling, but yesterday it fell to 3%. So we think that the altcoin bear market's largely over, meaning...
Can you define altcoin for folks at home?
So it's not a universal term. We're defining it as small cap tokens. So anything that's not among the 50 largest cryptocurrencies, which is a liquid universe that's much, anything smaller.
Right.
But when that hits 3%, it falls into a consolidation phase that we're calling purgatory, and that can last 70 days up to 200 days. We think it's going to be 150 to 175 days because of all these regulatory issues that need to be ironed out. And that means that the altcoins don't really rally until mid-August, mid-September.
All right. But in terms of the big caps, what are we looking at on the Bitcoin sentiment index? Last time you came here, it was pretty dismal.
That's right. Yes. The Bitcoin Misery Index, which is really the measure of how does someone feel if they own Bitcoin. And it was 18 last time I was here, which was the worst reading since 2011. It's now back to 24. So it's still in the zone of misery, but of course it's less miserable.
I like those emojis.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
That's, by the way, that's not how Tom publishes the misery index.
That's right. That's your adaptation. It's a very
Well, we take a look at how it's actually depicted in his notes, and you guys can decide what you like better, these with the emojis or that.
That's a little more.
I like the emojis.
It's a little more
emojis
technical.
are a little
That's
more
why we
real
went
to
with
me.
the emojis.
the emojis
So
work better.
So Tom, let's just talk. I mean, it seems like light years ago when Bitcoin broke out at 6,000 in November, it had that huge gap, and then it literally went for the next 6 or so weeks, or 8 weeks, to about 20,000. It's still in a downtrend. So we're having a lot of these kind of 20% rallies off of lows, but it's still in a downtrend. Don't you think there's a really good chance that it could round trip all the way back to 6,000 or 5,000, and still the fundamentals of the whole ecosystem still be very much intact? It's just really take out some of that euphoria that we saw in such a short period of time.
Yeah, I would say that's the technical view from Rob Slimer, our technician, who does think he would feel better if this picture touched 6,000 and then rallied from there. But one thing to keep in mind is if you count the number of hours we've spent below 6,000 recently, it was less than an hour. So in February, you only had an hour to buy below 6,000. So I think that you should view it as a touch. And so I'd still be buying Bitcoin here, even if there's a possibility it goes lower, because as you know, we talked about how the fully loaded cost of mining Bitcoin across the world, so not some people have it cheaper, is around 8,000. So you're buying Bitcoin at around cost today.
All right. Tom, good to see you.
Yeah, great to see you.
Tom Lee of Fundstrat. Tom had mentioned the altcoins being the smaller coins. You were talking before about Ethereum and how it might be under pressure because of potential regulations around the ICOs, a lot of which are built on the Ethereum platform. So that may be continued headwinds.
Right, and that's a lot of those altcoins or those smaller cap coins went into this purgatory. People were basically, selling Ethereum or Ether as they would sell out of these other coins. And so when you think about the regulatory environment, obviously that platform in and of itself, you want to call Ethereum a platform, is going to be under a lot more scrutiny, I would think, than, a mega cap coin like Bitcoin.
Are you still in any Ethereum?
I'm still in Ethereum, but I mean, ultimately, where are they going to go if Ethereum was the play to build upon? And I realize that there are other options out there, but again, it's certainly recognized as one of the obvious places to go.
Right.
And
so in the last week, we saw that Lightning Labs rolled out the Lightning Network. It's going to make transactions on Bitcoin much faster. I mean, here's the thing: as this whole thing evolves, you know, you can't just be watching a couple things. There's a lot of things going on here, and there's a lot of moving parts, a lot of ifs, ands, or buts, or you know what I mean?
Sure
a lot of what have yous, right, guys?
Yeah, well.
Yeah. It's a very complicated case.